Hi everyone, I'm just back with Ella. We believe that she suffered a seizure last night, so we're just on our way to the vets this morning to bring her back in. Luckily, it doesn't look like there's any further damage, but we're quite concerned since we stopped medication on Thursday that perhaps it hasn't worked after all, so I'll let you guys know what they say. Okay, so Ella and I have just made it home and we had a pretty good checkup with the vet, which was such a relief. So since stopping the medication on Thursday, Ella seemed to be doing quite fine. As you can see right now, she seems pretty normal. But I've noticed that her bum area is still kind of swollen and she was exhibiting some nesting behavior still, which I didn't know whether it was just her naturally nesting or if the medication didn't actually do its job and she still had fluid inside her, which is quite a bad thing. So then last night we were downstairs and all of a sudden heard her chirping quite frantically and came upstairs and she was like jolting her head to the side really fast. And it was kind of scary. So my husband brought her out because I was just a whole ball of, I was just hysterical. It was awful. So my husband brought her out and just held her, and she actually was moving her neck back and forth a lot, kind of like when they're trying to work something into their crop. And all of a sudden she threw up little bits of food and then jumped back in her cage and was playing and ringing bells and perfectly fine. So we weren't sure if she had a seizure or if she was choking on something. Obviously, we don't want her choking on something, but that's quite a bit better than her having something as serious as a seizure. When speaking to the vet today, she's not really sure what kind of episode Ella had, as we obviously can't show her what happened, and also because Ella seems quite normal, and she said she doesn't think it's a seizure because generally those take quite a bit longer time for your bird to bounce back from. So the other good news is that when we weighed her, she actually weighs a little less than she did last week, so hopefully that means that the fluid is gone. The vet said she didn't feel spongy to the touch in her abdomen like she did last time. However, she did feel an egg in there. So that's kind of, it's not a good thing, but it means the medication worked because the fluid seems to be gone. Now Ella has decided for whatever reason that it's a great time to lay an egg. So hopefully tomorrow she will pass that egg safe and sound, and then we're kind of done everything. So the vet did prescribe her another week of the Medicam, which is the pain relief, just because of everything that's gone on. We want to make sure that she's nice and mellowed out and passes that egg nice and easily and there's no issues. So I will just kind of keep you guys posted. Hi. Hello, sweetie. Right, so Ella's just laid her egg. She did seem like she was in some discomfort this time. She, the outer shell looks quite weak, really underdeveloped, and also we seem to be missing portions of it. Ella has been dragging half of her body around the cage like she's almost unbalanced, chirping really softly and not doing well. So I think some of the shell and possibly some of that yolk is still inside of her. So I'm going to give the vet a call and hopefully they can see us. All right, so we're going back to the vets again. We were just there last night, but Ella definitely seems to be in some discomfort. I'm quite concerned because I'm positive there's still a shell left inside of her, and the vet said that they wanted to see her right away. So we're just on our way now. So we're just waiting for Ella to be called to go inside. Here's Ella. She really doesn't want to be in the carrier. She's been dancing around a lot. She's trying to figure out how to get out. Okay, so Ella has just been through a couple procedures, including another x-ray, and they attempted to remove part of the shell piece. Now they're just mixing us up some more medication, so when we get home, I'll explain everything to you guys. Hey, little goose. Hi, everyone. It's Budget Bunny back with Ella. Today is October 28th, and I just wanted to let you guys know kind of what's been going on with her. So there is a part 1 to this video. She was diagnosed about 3 weeks ago now with egg yolk peritonitis, and we did our 10 days of treatment. So we finished on a Thursday, and she seemed really good, but she was exhibiting some nesting behaviors, and nesting behaviors can be related to the egg yolk peritonitis, such as being huddled at the bottom of a cage with her bum in the air, because they're trying to take pressure off of that lower abdominal area. Just quickly, because I've had a lot of questions about eggs. Yes, any female bird has the ability to lay an egg. Just like any female animal, they have a reproductive system and some kind of cycle that they go through. So when she feels that it is a good time, or such as springtime or warmer weather, things like that usually impact it as well, then her body will release the yolk into the system and then form the egg around it. So over her life, Ella's about 6.5 now, so she has laid, I'd say, about 30 eggs over her life, but they've all been completely perfect. Now, the other question that I get is the baby going to hatch? No, the egg is not fertilized. You need a male present to do that. So the eggs, they're just like the eggs that a lot of you probably buy from the supermarket. They're not going to hatch into baby chicks because they were never fertilized to begin with. So it's unfortunate that you just have to throw them out. And I mean, they're too small to do anything with. Hers are about the size of a marble. So there is something also called being egg bound. And what that means is that the bird can't pass the egg for whatever reason. Maybe she's not strong enough, her calcium levels aren't high enough. With everything that was going on with her, the vet and I figured that her body was just too weak to develop an egg right at that time. So she basically developed a really weak egg that broke inside her when she tried to lay it. And that's why I couldn't find all the shell pieces, because some was still inside of Ella. So of course I called the vet in a panic. They squeezed me in. I was their last appointment of the night. And it was really scary because I could tell something was wrong. That was the other thing. When I came down, she could barely walk. She was really leaning to one side and kind of falling over. Those are other symptoms of being egg bound, and so it was quite terrifying. So when we got there, it was a different vet, but she was also very experienced with birds. So the first thing that we did was we did an x-ray after the physical exam. The vet did a physical, and she could feel some harder pieces in Ella. And then we did an x-ray to see what was there. So in the x-ray, we saw fluid, which again would make sense because the egg did break inside her. And we also saw what looked like a very thin amount of eggshell. And again, it would have been soft. This egg looked quite underdeveloped, the shell that was passed. So from this point, it was kind of up to me on what we did, but what they tried to do was get the shell piece, at least the large one, out of her. And because she is so little, they couldn't put her under. So what we had to do was give her a shot of a painkiller, and then they basically go into her and try to remove that piece. They only could do it for a few minutes because Ella just seemed like she was too much in pain. And so, sorry, I don't like invasive procedures, and I don't like things that cause pain, and it was really hard consenting to that, but I felt like it was the safest thing because that shell could essentially rip out her inside. So yeah, so they unfortunately couldn't get it. She said she was just like trembling and in too much pain that they couldn't continue with it. So we're back on the Medicam and the Baytril for another 10 days. Hopefully what happens is, again, that will help to break down the fluid and the eggshell so that either her body reabsorbs everything, or by the time she does pass the rest of the shell, it's just small little pieces instead of one long, like, sharp piece. So the other thing the vet and I discussed while we were there was kind of what the next step is if this doesn't work. So there is a procedure that they will do where they actually extract some of the fluid, and then it gets sent out for analysis, as well as blood work. And both of these were things that I turned down in the first place because, again, they're very invasive for such a small bird. They're costly, but, you know, we just want her better, so that's not really a huge deal. The other reason that I'm hoping it doesn't come to this, Ella, stop feather plucking, honey. Ella's never looked so, like, she's usually really good not to pluck, and I think she's just been so stressed that she's plucking a lot lately. But yeah, so the reason that I don't like either of these options is that in order to get a proper sample, she'll have to be off the medication. And since she's not really having any symptoms while being on the medication, it's clearly doing something for her. And it's very scary that she would have to be off the medication for a week for it to get out of her system. Then we'd have to bring her in for the blood work and the extraction of the fluid, and then they can put her back on the medication while we're waiting for the results. But still, it takes like a good 3 or 4 days for the medication to get back into her system. So that's like 2 weeks of her. You okay there, baby? What are you doing? What are you doing? So that's basically like 2 weeks with her not on any medication, which kind of frightens me. Depending on what they get from the results, I think it's just so that they can actually say on a piece of paper that it is egg yolk peritonitis, because at that point our vet can't really do anything else. Then we have to go to a specialist, which is about 3 hours away, and we had 2 different options our vet had suggested that they would look into for us. So the first was to have her spayed. So if this is a chronic problem, then every time that she tries to lay an egg, which could be at any point, she could develop this again and again and again. So the idea with a spay, of course, again, being very risky for her, given her size, would be that permanently she could never lay an egg again, so then the risk is gone. However, when our vet spoke with the specialist, they don't do spays on a bird that small because the risk is just too high. So unless it was life-threatening, like she was egg bound, our vets couldn't get it out, and it was a life and death situation, they wouldn't perform a spay on her. What they would do, however, is give her hormone shots. And I know that Peekaboo Parrots has done this for Smokey before. Apparently, the medication comes from Australia and is right now very closely monitored by our Canadian government. And only so much of it can come into the country per year. So only very select veterinary clinics have this. And my vet is like the top avian specialist and head of the avian kind of reform, I guess, in my area. But she works at a very small clinic, so they're not allowed to have the medication, this hormone shot. And so we would have to go to the specialist every 2 to 6 months to give Ella the shot that would prevent her from laying eggs. So, I mean, neither of these sound ideal. We're really hoping that it doesn't come to that because, again, it's a huge trip every couple months and, you know, very stressful on her, very costly. I don't know. We're just really hoping that all of this works. And, so yeah, anyways, I'm sorry to be like droning on about this, but I imagine that we're going to have a follow-up sometime next week. Ella's on medication until Friday, and I might just continue treating her until we go in to the vets for another x-ray because I'm so worried about her, and clearly the first round, you know, didn't stop everything. So yeah, there will definitely be at least a part 3 to this series. Hopefully, if anyone else is experiencing either being egg bound or egg yolk peritonitis, these videos have been helpful. I also was taking the time to do this because I've had a lot of people asking me where I've been on YouTube because I just kind of abruptly stopped being on there, and that was just because Ella got so sick so quickly that I've spent all of my time with her. It's, you know, I'm constantly worried about her. I need to be with her right now and make sure that she's okay. I'm monitoring her to make sure that if there's any clinical signs of what she's going through, that I'm like jotting them down and taking note of them or taking pictures for the vets and that kind of thing. And on top of that, when this all started, we had renovations starting in our house a couple days later. So it was just very bad timing. So I was just completely overwhelmed and completely exhausted because our house was just a disaster, and I was basically getting up, trying to spend as much time as I possibly could with Ella and the rest of the time working on the house. So now that we're kind of at the end of that, we're slowly getting back to normal. So that's why I'm trying to catch up on everything.
Ella and I did want to quickly remind everyone that we do have a Facebook page. We're just under Budget Bunny, but generally, especially when life gets busy or hectic, like with everything that's gone on with Ella and the reno, I don't have time to edit and upload videos. That's a very time-consuming process, but I do often post on Facebook, generally at least once a day. And, you know, you tend to find out things a little quicker on there than you will by just following us on YouTube. So if you do have Facebook, I suggest you hop on over to Budget Bunny and click like. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.